TV.
Morning again, TV. We are live from Kampala's Serena Conference Center. This show is live on YouTube. I read your comments and I read your trips. Let's keep the conversation going. Now, yesterday, police say that 3 people had died and 34 others were injured in protests that broke out in Kampala and other parts of the country following the arrest of the National Unity Platform presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, commonly known as Bobi Wine. Now, police spokesperson Mr. Fred Nanga identified the deceased as Saudi Mwanje, a 35-year-old resident of Katwe, Juma Sendagire, a 27-year-old resident of Lusanja Chitezi, and the one Anansi from Kubiri, Kampala. Now, to speak to us about this more and more, we have Mr. Maurice Wakakamba, an NRM leading political analyst, and Bireete from the Center for Constitutional Governance. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Andrew, and good morning, viewers.
Morning, Maurice.
How are you, Chamagelo, this morning?
Well, me where I am, I could say that I am safe now, but I didn't sleep well. Maurice, did you sleep well last night?
Absolutely not, because these are not the events we need to be witnessing in a country that has made strides in building a democracy.
Well, Sarah, how was your night? Because I understand your offices are in Ntinda, and Ntinda yesterday was one of those flashpoints that had a lot of chaos going on.
Yes, yes, tear gas found us in office at in Minister's Village, and I stay in Namgongo side. So the whole route was chaotic. I think until after midnight. Yeah, until after midnight. I think I expect that really all Ugandans, including the security forces, did not sleep well.
Oh, yes. It was very painful. Well, to start off this conversation, I will ask both of you, from what you saw yesterday, from the human moment, what happened yesterday, the senseless killing, the vandalism, the arrest of Bobi Wine and Patrick Amoriat. What do you make of the entire situation, Sarah?
No, it's very unfortunate that other than, you know, the COVID pandemic affecting the electoral process and the environment, we have moved from a digital election to a tear gas election. Parts of northern Uganda, eastern Uganda, and the greater Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono, Kampala, you know, all the clouds are covered with tear gas. And I really would not know whether the Electoral Commission feels that they are in charge of this process, as mandated by Article 61 of the Constitution, to reinforce Article 1 of the Constitution that gives power to the people to elect their leaders in regular, free, and fair elections. What we have achieved in the last, you know, 25 years of the 1995 Constitution are regular elections.
Regular elections.
Yes, but we are yet to experience a free and fair election. And this is documented in the 2 key Supreme Court decisions under the 1995 Constitution. That is the 2001 election petition of Kizza Besigye versus Yoweri Museveni, and 2016. I think 2006 also. Yes, and there are 3 Supreme Court petitions confirming that we are yet to hold an election as envisaged in the Constitution. After 25 years of promulgation of the 1995 Constitution. This is very unfortunate. And it's unfortunate, more unfortunate, to note that the election presided over by a Justice of Appeal might be on record as the worst ever election.
The one of Justice Biamukam?
Yes.
Why?
If you look at the trend of violence, the trend of violence, I will use an example of 2001. 2001 was an election where President Museveni faced the first greater challenge by Kizza Besigye under the Reform Agenda group. There was violence. There was shooting in Blange. in Mukono, a UPDF, I think Lieutenant Kano, ran through supporters of Besigye and killed one of them. Yes, in Masaka and then Rukunjiri.
Oh, yes.
But when the pattern kept repeating itself, Hajaziz Kasuja, who was the chair of the Electoral Commission then, is on record to have written to the president, who is the commander-in-chief,
Yes.
that I am unable to conduct election as mandated under Article 61 of the Constitution. And I am asking you to withdraw the army from the campaign, or I am going to stop the process.
That was Aziz Kasuja.
Yes.
He took a firm position.
Yes. And the Electoral Commission was visible. And even the body language was clear that they are attempting to be in charge as mandated by the Constitution. But if you look at the actions of the current Electoral Commission, I know there was a recent consultative meeting of representatives of several candidates.
Oh, yes.
But the only issue discussed affecting the campaign trail was COVID guidelines.
Yes.
Is it the only challenge?
They said that
Facing
was the only
stakeholders? Is it the only challenge?
And yesterday they arrested...
I think General Tumukuri has been blocked from addressing scheduled rallies in 4 districts.
Yes.
We saw the manhandling of presidential candidates right on nomination in front of Justice Byabakama. We saw the continued brutal handling of these candidates in the on the electoral trial. The most culprits are Honorable Chaguranyi, Amuriat and General Tumukunde.
Yes.
So was that the only concern? The Electoral Commission shied away from addressing the concerns of the representatives of candidates. So what does it mean to conduct?
So, Sarah, you come from the school of thought that Electoral Commission is not in charge of the elections.
Absolutely.
You feel Electoral Commission has given its mandate to the state to run?
No, the security agencies have hijacked the electoral process.
Maurice Rakakamba joining us for this conversation. You as an NRM expert analyst, with all due honesty, from a human point of view, Maurice, you're having a very honest conversation here. What do you make of the events that happened yesterday in Kampala and in the different suburbs?
No, thank you, Chamagero. And let me first of all say that I liked your tweet yesterday, which was universal in condemnation of violence from across the board. Because at the end of the day, what is clear is that we are all Ugandans, and disagreements or not belonging to similar political persuasions should not make us enemies. Because, Chamagero and the viewers of NTV, I think we first of all need to look at the anatomy of the violence that happened yesterday. And when you look at that anatomy, like you clearly stated, you have people who are dead, and the police came out and, spoke out their names because they have names and they are citizens of Uganda. 2, you had a car of a justice, Justice Mutonyi, just because, the car had red number plates, vandalized. You had an ambulance, carrying patients who needed very quick care being vandalized. We have all seen clips, of videos that are moving around WhatsApp and other platforms of an officer, ASP Kasure, who was hit by a hammer by somebody, rioting and, dressed up in red, a police officer who was trying to clear debris and clear the trash that was, being, thrown around there by the protesters. So I think it is important for Ugandans to note that whereas demonstrating over a particular issue is a right of every Ugandan, but it must be done so peacefully, without disrupting the business or disrupting the freedom of others. So I think as a country, we must get back to the values of, first of all, freedom. Second, rule of law is very important. Listening to my friend Sarah speak, it's very interesting what she said, but I think it is important to note that even when we have elections in this country, law and order really should be maintained. We should not have elections, in chaos. And I think all parties, and I have been very clear previously, that even within the police, there are some elements that I think have acted ultra vires or really out of the rules, and I think those should take individual responsibility. I don't know whether lawyers call it vicarious liability, something like that, but it is not the policy of the institution of the police to torture. It is not the policy of the institution of the police to act in a way that harms people, because our police is supposed to be protecting us, and they are very, very good police officers who have put themselves on the line. Like really looking at that photograph of Kasure, who was being hit by a hammer just because she was clearing debris, tells you that as Ugandans, I think we need to look inside ourselves. There is a car of a supporter of President Museveni that was moving around, and people started throwing stones at it. This is a citizen who was just showing support, for a particular candidate. I saw posters of President Museveni, billboards, being run down. I saw posters of my friend here in Chira, Mamerto Mugerwa, being banned. So that chaos, I think, should be across the board really condemned. I haven't seen NRM supporters trying to beat the supporters of other presidential candidates. If it is there, that should also be very, very seriously condemned. So I think as a country, what we saw yesterday, these are not the scenes we want to be seeing. And really, the other aspect that I wanted to mention, I agree that the Electoral Commission should come out very, very strongly and invite, in full view of the media, hold a major meeting with all political parties, with all presidential candidates.
But they have tried that. Maurice, they have tried that. They have called these political parties, the presidential candidates, to their agents, but this has not yielded. Yesterday, you're talking about Afande Kasule, who was hit by a hammer, but we had vendors who were crushed into by a car. There was a vendor who is never going to walk again. All these, these are gruesome acts that happened yesterday, Mr. Akakamba. I don't know whether you have the same lens the way I actually, look at things here. But the excessive force that was used by security agencies?
What I am telling you is that, wrongs could have committed on many sides, and that should really be looked into. There is no reason why vendors should be crushed. And if it happened, I think that should be condemned. But you also need to mention to your viewers that cars of supporters of President Museveni were being stoned, and sometimes somebody was telling me that
whoa, Mr. Rakakamba,
yes.
Mr. Rakakamba, let me be very blunt here, Mr. Rakakamba.
I have talked about
this
the
is
car
what
of
happened.
Justice Mutonyi,
yes.
which was stoned,
yes.
and I think you should mention that. So when we are condemning,
I agree.
Should be across the board. It should not be cherry picking.
I condemn.
But the Electoral Commission, you cut me short before I finished my point on the Electoral Commission. I would want to see the Electoral Commission.
Come on, Maurice.
Holding a meeting in full view of the media, discussing these issues around arrests, around violence, around reviewing the SOPs, and make sure that there are key actionable, propositions that are put forward. Maurice. For example, do we need to suspend campaigns if people are not, for example,
the ground is not level
of COVID cops, of COVID SOPs? Those are extremely very important things. And I would want such a meeting to also be attended by the Interreligious Council, because the Interreligious Council in many ways is the soul of the nation. And because they have been conducting the national dialogue process, I think that they hold the golden parachute, sort of an umbrella, that if the push comes to the shove, they can provide some other level of conversation of citizens that touches the soul of the nation.
Okay. Maurice, just hang in there. My colleague Stephen Mbide is joining us. He's live at Chiseka Market, where yesterday this entire wave started. Stephen Mbide, if you could give us an update, what is currently happening at Chiseka Market?
Andrew Chamagero. Right now I'm standing along the Chagwe Road, and this is the city of Central Business District, just standing next to the famous Chiseka Market, one that some people here around this place called Bengazi, and that explains why there is a lot of military presence here, because this is where it all started yesterday, the mayhem that we saw in the city, where it was so bloody between the protesters and the security personnel that included the military, the LDUs and the police officers. But right now they are standing on guard to make sure there is no any kind of chaos that we saw yesterday, and that military officer is trying to chase away all the border riders who keep stopping here. It doesn't allow anyone to stop here, and those who have been trying to keep here for some more time, they've been either beaten or has told to go away, and this is what's happening. Also, the other side of Mpabana Road. Mpabana Road is the one that goes off the Chagwe Road, connecting towards the other side of Aga Khan. There are so many LODUs and police officers manning the entire Chiseka Market to make sure there is no any kind of, at least anyone trying to burn up tires or do anything that is a sign of any rise up of any protest like we saw yesterday, where many people were left injured, and an unaccounted number of people are believed to have died yesterday in the mayhem that we saw. But of course, we shall be getting the information from the police, how many people were left dead and how many were injured, and others who were looted along the way. But here, some of the people are but the shops, as many of the shops are still closed. Traffic flow around this place is usually by now it would have been so immense, but right now many people are still scared to come to the city. They want to know what's happening in the city. Is the city calm or is still chaotic like it was yesterday? Kambabuze lwaki bakyayimira wano ate nga security bagamba baleme kubeera nga bayimira wano, olowooza n'embeera eno ogamba otya ssebo? Amanya go gwange
nze Katongole Vale.
Embeera yabaddewo eggulo mu kitundu kino zayinza kubanga ekwatibwa etya okulaba nga toluddewo okulaba ate embeera yabaddewo ey'obugugumuko, akacyankalano n'embeera yabaddewo ya gaasi n'amasasi?
Abakuumaddembe be balina oba tebakozesa maanyi naye wabula bakozese oba kale tebakozesa bikolwa naye bakozese maanyi gundi
kandi olowooza embeera y'okubanga tetwagala kulaba nga tuddamu embeera gye twabaddemu eggulo esaana kubanga ekwatibwa etya okulanga mmwe mukola emirimu gyammwe n'abakuumaddembe bagenda mu maaso n'emirimu gyabwe egy'okukuuma eddembe?
Akati ffe kye twagala abakuumaddembe bakuume emirembe, naffe abantu abaagala enkyukakyuka okulanga ebeerawo naffe tulina okukuuma emirembe, so si kubonyabonya bannamawulire ng'ejjo bye mwalabye nga babayisawo bi nga babakuba. Ebyo ebintu bibi nnyo mu nsi eno. Munnamawulire mu nsi eno atakwatibwako, omuntu mulina omuleka n'asaka amawulire n'asobola okugatuusa mu byalo wa muki so si kutambula ddembe lya munnamawulire. Nze kyenteesa obukambwe bungi nnyo, n'ensi tekyali y'abantu ya bibomboola.
Kakati mmwe abakolera wano military naba ebagezezza okulaba nga temuddamu kukola bye mwakoze eggulo, mukakasa mutya abantu abali eyo tebagenda kuddamu kulaba mbeera eno yabaddewo eggulo ng'ojja ku bannamawulire?
N'abamagye bonna abakuumaddembe nabo beegendereze, nabo balina okubeera nga nabo beegendereza, nga nabo si bakambwe, kuba banalaga obukambwe naffe tugenda kubeera bakambwe nnyo okutwaliza wammwe n'ensi yaffe si ya bibomboola.
Kakati mukulu, mukimanyi nti amateeka agamu kugasibwawo, mulina okwambala masiki, mulina okuba nga mukuuma mwewa amabanga, naye kati gwe masiki ogitambuliza mu nsawo?
Kakati ebintu ebimu nga byo ebya masiki naawe olaba ekigenda mu ggwanga essaawa zino basazeeko akatale kaffe tetugenda kukola, tulinga abali mu buwambe essaawa ya leero, masiki enemesa obulungi, tulinga abali mu buwambe essaawa ya kati obudde buno.
Kiki kiba kikolewo okulanga embeera eddamu okubanga ey'omunteeko nammwe mukole n'abakuumaddembe bakole egyabwe?
Abakuumaddembe nga bo balina okugoberera amateeka gaabwe, nga bo tetujja kugondera muntu mateeka ng'ate bo be bakola ki, be banyigiriza omuntu wa wansi.
Waliwo b'omanyiko abo abalumiziddwako wano ku lunaku lw'eggulo?
Abalumirizwako sirina be mmanyi nnyo, naye ng'abantu bo baalabiddwa, kubanga ne ku mawulire baabiraze nga ne ambulensi zayiseemu muno zikola ki, zikuŋŋaanya abantu. So gavumenti erina okugondera, ngaffe era terina tunyigiriza nnyo, yadde era omuntu tali mugenderevu nnyo neyanze sebo.
Okay, Njakoma Koyo for now, but this is the situation under Chamagero down here in the city. I went through the clock tower there at the police fire and rescue department division of the police. I saw the military there. They are in camps, they are getting orders, and others were on patrol around the city center, but also the vehicles that carry tear gas and the water cannons were there stationed at the fire and rescue services, just getting ready in case of any fracas within the city. They are ready to be deployed around the city. But for now, the city is still calm. So many shops are still closed as people wait to see what's happening here in the city center. Other than that, anything else you want to know from me? But for now, that's the situation within the city, Andrew.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen Mbide. We'll give you more updates on these as and when they keep unveiling and opening up. A couple of people have sent in messages. Someone has sent in a message saying that when Museveni went to the bush and killed 1,000 Ugandans, protesting vote rigging was the peaceful way then. Today, the youth and those who went around the country, they felt the only way to protest was to go on the streets. Sarah, what do you make of that?
Well, there has been several theories advanced as to why President Museveni went to the bush and his team. I know that he contested 1980 elections. They were regular because they were being organized as scheduled and conducted on schedule. The same thing which is still doing 35 years in power. He alleged that the elections were not free and fair.
Yes.
The highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, has confirmed on 3 occasions that the elections conducted under his leadership are not free and fair. So I would like to know what he has to say about that. And in most cases, he interferes with the electoral process because he's a commander-in-chief in this country. He holds the power to the conduct of the security forces. He interferes with the independence of the Electoral Commission. I think it's important to note that just before COVID pandemic, the President Museveni, who was already a nominated presidential candidate by his party, fired 3 top officials of the Electoral Commission. So part of the struggle, and I've not seen a proper replacement of those officials. People, yes, in the Electoral Commission, people are just in acting capacity, and maybe this is also something that Justice Byabakama needs to explain. He said the people took early retirement, but of course there was prior information, and the president has repeated on several public rallies
that he
as to why he fired them, a presidential candidate. Gazetted by his but fired senior electoral officials. That's in direct contravention of Article 62 of the Constitution. Article 62 reinforces the independence of the Commission by stating that the Commission should not be under any authority or directive in the conduct of elections in this country. The other element of interference is through PPDA, the public procurement, of course through ballot paper printing. I was glad to see yesterday that finally some companies, all of them still foreign, were you know, awarded the contract to print
better that they are foreign?
Ballot papers. Personally, I would not vouch for any local company to print ballot papers. For the integrity and secrecy of the ballot, for the reinforcement of security features and capacity, among other things. I would not vote for that. So that interference also, it's the state interference. In the work of the Electoral Commission. So when, beyond that, you look at failure of several opposition candidates to appear on radio talk shows, on media, because of intimidation of security agencies. Who commands security agencies?
Is the commander-in-chief.
Yes.
And the candidate today.
Yes, and the candidate in the race. Look at the, of course, violence. Those are people directly under his charge. Has he made any comment? Even yesterday, as other presidential candidates were bothered by what happened in the country, the president was very comfortable. He's the only candidate who expressed comfort and peace and happiness while conducting elections yesterday.
Maurice, I'm sure you can hear all these, and the entire Twitter is actually going haywire. What Sarah has alluded to here, I don't know what you make of it, but let me just give you this real quick. Yesterday, Bobi Wine, Kyagulanyi, was arrested for not, fronting the guidelines of COVID-19 or following them to the T. But I want to tell you that we have footage that he was wearing a mask before he was arrested. Not the crowds that were around him, but he was wearing a mask. That is one. And you're saying that police is doing this so that it's following orders because it was meant that everyone has to follow the COVID-19 regulations. But just to bring you this quick, 3 members of parliament are in isolation and they're positive for COVID-19. They are under treatment. 2 are dead. Well, one died last week, I think. And these are government officials. The Kawempe RCC died of COVID-19. A former the later media center deputy executive equally died of COVID-19. Does this make sense to you? Do you make sense of this? Is it selective implementation of COVID-19 guidelines to some people, yet it doesn't apply on the other side?
I think, Chamagero, what you've just mentioned is important. But if you look at the way these elections, the campaigns are being conducted by different candidates, I think you can discern very, very clearly that there is a difference. President Museveni has been in northern Uganda holding what you would call outdoor tent meetings, where people are wearing masks, where people are socially distanced. Yesterday, while rioting was happening, President Museveni was in Karamoja launching a marble factory, and you could see people there socially distanced, all of them wearing masks. But if you look at the rallies that my brother Kyagulanyi has been holding, there have been massive rallies, really super spreader, what you would call super spreader events, like what Trump was doing. If you look at his Twitter feed, you can look at the videos, you can look at, you can look at really the multitudes of the people. And what NUP has been promoting as a way of showing force, they have been showing, pictures of massive rallies trying to demonstrate that they have much, much bigger support in the country, without caring about lives of people and without caring about COVID. So I think there is a distinction in terms of how the two campaigns have really been conducted. And I think Ugandans should know that. So I think really going forward, in my view, it is the Electoral Commission really needs to work with other agencies to ensure that COVID guidelines and standard operating procedures are really enforced. Because we started this election cycle, Chamagero, talking about conduct of scientific elections. That's why, for example, I'm speaking to you via the internet on Zoom. That is why it was agreed that really campaigns should be on radio, should be on TV, whether private or public broadcasters should give equal time to candidates who are vying for different offices to be able to pass on a message. Because I think electioneering is much more about messaging, is much more about giving hope. But when people started moving around, conducting rallies and flouting the guidelines and then the chaos, and the battles with the police, now the country has been shifted from the good promises or good messages in the manifestos by different candidates that Ugandans should be interrogating to really now discussing the chaos, the violence, the death, the destruction. And I think these are not the images we want in the country because these have negative implications.
Okay. Maurice, just a minute, just a minute, Maurice. Maurice, just a minute. My colleague Herbert Ziwa is on standby in Karamoja region. Herbert, if you can hear me, kindly paint for us a picture of where you are, and did the president at any one time yesterday comment what was happening around the capital and around the different regions of the country?
Good morning, viewers, and Andrew Chamagalo in the studios. We are live from Moroto district, Moroto municipality, where the NRM candidate Yoweri Museveni is still continuing with his campaign trail. Just the question you've asked, the president did not comment about the events that happened yesterday in Kampala and other parts of the country. he was still emphasizing his message of peace, unity, and development. But maybe what happened yesterday, normally where we've been going with the president, we would see musicians like Bebe Cool having processions and pulling crowds in the streets of the cities away from the venue where the NRM candidate is holding his meetings of few people and in stricter observance of the COVID-19 guidelines. In Moroto yesterday, that never happened. We didn't see the yellow bus that normally moves with Bebe Cool and Catherine Kusasira. That never happened yesterday. Maybe they also followed the guidelines. But aside from that, the president today heads to Kotido district, still in Karamoja sub-region, on his second day of the trail in this region. And from there, he will meet NRM leaders from the neighboring districts of Bim, Kabong, Kalenga, and the host district of Kotido as he continues to ask for votes from Karamoja sub-region. Just to remind you, in the 2016 general elections, Karamoja is one of the regions where President Museveni scored above 90% of the vote. And when you speak to the people here and the NRM leaders, they tell you it's because of the peace they are now enjoying in this region that the disarmament program that was spearheaded by the UPDF was one of the reasons why this region continues to vote for the NRM candidate. But aside from that, they still have a few concerns. For example, the scarcity of water, despite the fact that this region receives rain, but the rain, after raining, the waters all go to Teso sub-region, and this area remains dry. So they want water to be trapped and preserved to be used during the dry season. They also need economic empowerment. They are saying that they have lots of minerals, gold, marble, and many others, but they are not benefiting. But if you read the NRM manifesto, constructing factories here in Karamoja is one of the key things the manifesto is talking about. So we hope maybe in the next 5 years, if the NRM candidate is given another mandate by Ugandans, maybe this can be implemented. So that is the situation here in Karamoja as we continue following the NRM candidate, Yoweri Museveni, as he is hunting for votes here in Karamoja sub-region.
Joined by my other colleague, that is Ali Mivule, who happens to be in Nalufenya, where the NUP presidential candidate was incarcerated or detailed from yesterday up to today. We tried to follow up online. Those who are very close to him have not had access to get to him and see how he's holding up. Ali Mivule, from where you stand and the night where you spent it, what is the situation like?
Today, the National Unity Platform presidential candidate is supposed to be in the areas of Mpigi, Masaka, and Kalungu. But here we are. He's still detained here at Nalufenya police station, where he was brought yesterday. And we left this place at around 11 in the night, and nothing had come through, and he was still there. But as you can see here, they've kind of extended the barriers, because by yesterday we were just next to the police station there at Nalufenya. But now they've extended the barriers away from there up to the main road, and also bringing in the army also manning these barricades. Now there we've seen some people coming in, the lawyers of Robert Kyagulanyi. We are not yet sure if he's going to be charged in which court, or is going to be released without any charge. So we're still here waiting what comes out of the day. But there was some circular about the charge of doing the act of spreading an infectious disease. That's under the Penal Code of Section 171. So we're yet to see if he's going to be charged in court or is going to be left free. But now, by yesterday, there was some chaos here in Jinja Town, of course. But now the situation is very, very calm. People are back to doing their businesses, and nothing like running battles. But again, the police, as I was coming today here, the police, we saw some police officers that were actually deployed at, in the different outskirts of Jinja, just there, so that they can maintain law and order. So we are going to be, we're going to talk to the lawyers and also the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, because they're here, they've just come here, and they'll give us a brief here. I can see here Council. Yes, Council. I understand, did you access Honorable Chagulanyi yesterday?
We were not able to. We were locked out. As we speak now, we have been trying to access him as well. But as you can see, we have been denied access. They are informing us that they have not got clearance from their superiors. We do not know which superiors they are referring to, but we are trying to continue engaging them, and hopefully we'll be allowed to meet him, because that is his right to access his lawyers and family.
Okay, we saw, how authentic is the charge that we saw circulating on social media doing the act of spreading an infectious disease?
We are not able to verify that, because the police officers here have not given us audience. We have not met the accused person, the suspect, so we are not able to verify whether that charge sheet is authentic or not. I'm sure police is in a better position to explain that.
Because now today, Honorable Chagulanyi, your presidential candidate was supposed to be in the areas of Mpigi, Kalungu and Masaka. What next to his trail?
We believe that these arrests are politically motivated, because if you have been observing the events as they unfold, people are having rallies. NRM is having rallies all over the country. If indeed he's being arrested for waving to people, you can see that that is politically motivated, and it's aimed at curtailing his campaign.
Okay, that's Council Benjamin Katana, one of the lawyers of Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, the National Unity Platform presidential candidate. So we still camped here at Nalufenya.
Ali?
We don't know at what time we shall be getting another development.
Well, Ali,
at the moment, Nalufenya is a no-go zone area for us. For the public here, so it's only a few people that are allowed here, because now the army is taking us. So as you can see there, Katana trying to negotiate his way into Nalufenya to no avail. So that's the situation right now. Back to you, Chamagero in studio.
well, thank you so much, Ali Mivule. Bireete, you see all this. Lawyers are not being allowed to have access to their client. That is one. And that is a constitutional right to have access to legal advice on how to navigate through. What do you make of all this?
Shamagere, these are very disturbing developments. Very disturbing developments. Elections are highly emotional processes.
Yes, indeed.
People, you know, provoking people when their emotions are high. When many people have gone through hardships of COVID, you saw what happened in town, and my co-panelist Maurice alluded to the violence. But in many occasions, violence has been provoked by the acts, of state agencies. People would be moving. Yes, people are protesting about an issue as a, you know, guaranteed in Article 29 of the Constitution. Then the police comes in and say, you can't move, you know. And it's important to note that the security agencies are using SOPs, the COVID Standard Operating Procedures, to replace the repealed Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act. Previously, the police was irregularly using POMA.
Public Order Management
Yes, to disrupt public gatherings. But when the Constitutional Court repealed the provision that was seeking to reenact the former repealed Section 32 on powers of the police to authorize or to deny public gatherings, now they are hiding behind the SOPs. As you correctly mentioned, it's unfortunate, you know, for anybody. I think we have lost so far 153 Ugandans to COVID pandemic.
Yes.
Those are the documented. I'm sure there are more people who could have succumbed to COVID and have not died in hospital.
Indeed.
Because of the nature, you know, of society, poverty, and the rest of the challenges. May their soul rest in peace. It is unfortunate for anybody to die of a preventive cause in this country. But we have so many things killing Ugandans. Road accidents being among the highest. Then we have malaria. We have 19 people that perish in labor wards giving birth every day. So the women who die giving birth every day in this country are more than those documented, are higher than the
ones
COVID
documented.
deaths. Yes, but nobody should die of a preventable cause. Having said that, we have several countries that have conducted elections amidst COVID in Africa and other areas. I will use an example of Zambia. The way the security agencies were implementing SOPs. And I wish also to underscore the fact that the SOPs used by other countries are those standard SOPs by the World Health Organization.
Yes.
But for us, we have extras like curfew amidst a campaign. Freedom of movement is guaranteed under Article 29 of the Constitution.
But they will say these are unprecedented times.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. For anybody to take away fundamental rights and freedoms, you cannot amend the Constitution through a regulation. So we have a situation where the executive has amended the Constitution in this country using COVID regulations.
Without proper structures.
Yes, and the Parliament, of course, is stuck in their own confusion. So, yes, rights can be suspended, warranting prevention of a pandemic and arrest. But it should be done proper under the Constitution. So it's important to note that even we are not administering COVID guidelines under the proper way that it should be. And the president did note this in his first address of COVID, when he said that he received an opinion of Chief Justice, who told him that he should address the pandemic under the Constitution through Article 110 on a state of emergency.
Which says?
Yeah, then he said, no, but I chose Public Health Act. Public Health Act was enacted in 1935. Draconian, irregular, and it is not in conformity with the Constitution. So, but moving away from that, what is expected of security agencies in a hybrid election?
Thank you.
I want first to underscore the fact that the Electoral Commission has failed the test of a hybrid election, and they need to suspend public campaigns until they are able, with immediate effect, until they are able to put their act in order.
Okay.
So what is expected of security agencies? We had monies approved by Parliament to procure masks for all Ugandans aged 6 years and above. I have not received mine. Every adult was supposed to receive 2 masks. I don't know what category of Ugandans have received masks. I am aware some masks were distributed and seen. Did you receive yours?
I didn't receive one.
So these people that are coming to attend rallies, did they receive masks? I think we need also that accountability.
Yes, we need to audit that.
As we say everybody, because the right of access to information is also a fundamental right. And elections are defined by ability of voters to make informed decisions through listening to their leaders. So as we say, people in the rural side should have not seen any member of my family, for the record, wearing a government mask. So even those in the town, even those in the rural side, I don't think they have received masks. So as we say, people must wear masks, which they should, because we all have a responsibility.
As government provided.
Yes, did the government distribute masks? I think this is the right time to get that accountability on masks from Ministry of Health.
And we all caution that. Maurice Wakakamba.
But also as I conclude 1 minute. So what is expected of security agencies?
In this hybrid election?
Yes. If the Electoral Commission and the Ministry of Health have said, hold a gathering of 200 people, what has been done in other countries? The security agencies go to that gazetted venue of a rally. They make sure there is water for washing hands. They make sure if you don't have a mask, you don't access. But they do not focus on candidates to harass them, to brutalize them, to humanize them. This is an exception for this country.
Those are the security agents. Rakakamba, I'm sure you've heard all these. I really want to get your opinion about these. Yesterday, when Bobi Wine was arrested, Honorable Chagulanyi was arrested, equally his campaign agents were arrested, right? And the law says that in the absence of the candidate, his agents can address the rallies or the whatever gathering he was to address. Today, he was slated to be in PG and the likes of the areas. So what becomes of all these from your side, the way you see it?
Well, it has been a confusing political season where I suspect that some candidates really chose to feign ignorance of the COVID rules and regulations. And I think that's really absurd. And to Sarah's point, you know, over 150 Ugandans have died.
Yeah.
And Andrew, you mentioned that even some leaders in parliament and the resident district commissioner,
they have died,
have died. So really, where death is involved, I think it is important, first of all, for leaders to take responsibility. And leaders are not only those in the government, even those who are leading political parties, even those who are presidential candidates, even those who are leading churches, those leaders, for them in their. And what do the leaders do during times of distress? People look at leaders for answers, especially during a crisis, especially during the time of distress. But if you are a leader who says, let's gather, because COVID is not a very big issue for us, that is actually sentencing your people to death. And I think the cardinal role of a leader in a crisis is to protect the people he or she is supposed to be or wants to lead. But also, too, is to set an example. I have seen these leaders, who are campaigning, not putting on a mask. And they are driving and in the midst of people who are not socially distanced. I think that is the highest form, in my view, of irresponsibility. And I think that should be condemned.
Well, that's it.
On the issue of security agencies,
in the hybrid election,
I think it is very important that security agencies not only play fair, but are also seen to be playing fair, because these are institutions of the state that must be absolutely non-partisan. There could be some elements within security agencies that are overzealous, and I think those should be brought to order through the standards and disciplinary measures within the forces. And I think what Ugandans should know is that no police officer wakes up to go and torture a fellow Ugandan, because these police officers, these members of the security agencies, they are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are from our communities, their children go to the same schools. When they fall sick, they go to the same hospitals, they go to the same markets with us. So these are, fellow citizens who also vote. And I think, in my view, instead of the opposition candidates, putting a wedge and looking at security agencies as an enemy, I think that's a wrong perspective. That's not being smart, because members of security agencies also vote. So actually, in my view, presidential candidates and other leaders should be even convincing them that this is what the plans that they actually do have.
Mr. Rakakamba, just to remind you, in the presidential address, when the president was addressing, I want to be on record, he said that if COVID-19 is still here, anyone who organizes elections won't really mean great for Ugandans. We don't need our people to die. He said that we cannot have elections during COVID-19. But along the way, he shifted the goals.
That was before.
And yes, we came up with the scientific elections and all that. But help me understand. I want your comment on the act of security agencies blocking other presidential aspirants on scheduled venues where they were already paid for. We had an incident in Kitgum where Amori at Power was denied access to Kitgum because his program collided with the one of your candidate. We had another incident where Tumukunde was denied access to a venue he had already paid for. Logistics was already spent on this. What's your comment on that?
My clear comment is that that's very wrong, and this is why the Electoral Commission should come out, because if there is already harmonization in terms of the venues, I don't think the presidential candidates should be foiled or should be stopped. I think they should be allowed to go to those venues and campaign scientifically, unless if they are in processions and they are floating the COVID rules, that's a different issue. But if they have already paid for venues or they are supposed to appear on radio stations, my view is that they should not be stopped. And I think citizens or even those presidential candidates should go to court and have that answered. But I think the Electoral Commission should come out strongly and play fair and make sure that they are independent in the conduct of their business.
I love it when you say fair, Mr. Rakakamba. Have you seen processions where we have the likes of Big Eye, Bebe Cool, Catherine Kusasila, processions with no masks, but police is in one or the other ushering them wherever they're going? Why are we having selective implementation of the SOPs on the opposition candidates, and when it gets to the NRM, it's never implemented? Why are we having double standards here?
You see, Chamagero, let me first tell you that in Tororo, where Tango Doi was leading some procession, the police intervened and commandeered those people.
That is one incident.
That was playing fair. But also, too, I don't believe that NRM should allow surrogates, whether it is it, you said Bebe Cool, whether it's Bebe Cool or these other people, to move around in buses and trying to attract processions. Because our candidate, President Museveni, is holding very safe campaigns, socially distanced, following SOPs to dot, and he's leading by example. So I don't expect surrogates or support or overzealous supporters of the NRM, to also act like some of these actors, who are dangerously holding what I call COVID super spreaders. I think that is wrong. And those who are, whether it is Bebe Kuru, they should be told to stop that behavior and really follow guidelines.
Thank you, Maurice. Sarah, where do we go from here? From what you saw, we still have like something like 2 months before elections. What do you see ahead?
Yesterday was the night after. We just had 9
days
of campaigns. So as per yesterday, 4 presidential candidates have suspended.
Oh, yes.
Have suspended campaigns.
2 are arrested already.
Yes. 2 are arrested. I think Amuriat was released in the night with no charge.
Oh, yes.
So how do you explain that? You arrest a candidate?
Who has a timeline to beat?
To beat? The candidates have 60 days.
Yes.
They must cover three districts per day. Because the law mandates them to campaign in every district. Let me also comment briefly on the example of the arrest of the NUP, Buganda coordinator, Honorable Matthias Mpuga.
Yes.
All our electoral laws, including the Presidential Elections Act, the Parliamentary Elections Act, provide that in the absence of the candidate may be sick, the candidate may be arrested, the candidate could be attending other meetings. In the absence of the candidates, campaign agents are allowed
to address the masses
with the scheduled rallies. Honorable Chagrany was scheduled to be in Mpigi, Kalungu, and Masaka today.
Yes.
And there is no time.
No, but they are supposed to be scheduled meetings, not rallies.
These are scheduled. These are campaign rallies. Honorable Mr. Rakakamba, my brother, I want to enjoin you.
There should be meetings in line with COVID SOPs.
I want to enjoin you, Honorable Rakakamba.
No, sorry. Rakakamba, just a minute. Let's have a
I want to really to enjoin you to have a grasp of electoral laws. The laws talk of campaign rallies.
Yes.
So whether they are limited to 200, it does not stop the name. What we have is to say public gatherings are limited to 200 in light of COVID. That does not stop the name as per the laws of this country. So whatever name you call it, I think the emphasis is on the numbers because of the pandemic. So Matthias Mpuga, the coordinator of the region, decided, yes, to proceed with the program and enable the candidates or campaign managers in those areas to address the voters as provided
by the
law.
Electoral Commission law.
Why are they under arrest? This exposes the political ill motive of the security agencies, that it's not just COVID, it is something more than COVID.
Ali Mifule, I understand there is an incident that has just happened. What is the latest you have there, Ali Mifule?
Yes, Chamagero, the latest is that one of the National Unity Platform parliamentary candidate, that's Muhammad Segirinya, has just been arrested here some few minutes back here. A group of armed guys were here in not in uniform, and they just came here. He was having an interview somewhere. They just grabbed him and then whisked him away to an unidentified place at the moment. So we're not yet sure where he's been taken, but I can confirm that Segirinya has been arrested just right here as I was having an interview where we're standing here.
This is happening. Sarah, back to you.
Yeah. If I may conclude, Andrew.
Yes.
So, but if presidential candidates, you know, these are people contesting for the highest office in the
Oh, yes, indeed.
And any of them, in a free and fair election, is capable of becoming the next president.
Yes.
If they have done anything wrong, what is the most dignified way of
handling
them? For example, there is a claim that they have violated
the COVID
Electoral Commission guidelines. All candidates are in the hands
of the Electoral Commission.
Electoral Commission can suspend their programs and say, come here, don't campaign.
Until these
issues are addressed. These are the conditions. Also important to note is that we recently enacted a code of conduct for political parties that would be so much helpful in guiding the candidates on do's and don'ts. But after nomination, the Justice Biabakam and his team forgot about the code of conduct for political parties. And in a recent crisis meeting is when they made their agents sign the code of conduct. So what is the nature of the laws governing this election? Then, you know, even a presidential candidate, you have Electoral Commission saying, look, you are not doing what we told you to do. You're violating our guidelines. Your campaigns are hereby suspended. Even police can write and say, we are summoning you.
Because of this.
Yes. Do you have to really go and manhandle and lift and address a presidential candidate?
That's very unfair. Mr. Rakakamba, as you're finalizing this conversation this early morning, these extra, should I call it, excessive force used by security agents in a state where you actually say that the Electoral Commission has to come out and pronounce itself on what is currently happening. In the work that security agencies seem to have an upper hand in this electoral campaign, what could be the way forward? How smooth can we go around this?
Well, let me first of all say that even during an election, even during the campaigns or a broader electoral season, the rule of law, order, and peace should be maintained. Business should continue to happen, and the country should move forward. Because even during an election, you know, people fall sick or businesses continue to thrive. So even when we have an election, we must continue to have some level of normalcy. On the issue of the arrests, I think the police or security agencies should arrest people with a reasonable. They must have a reason. They must have a reason, you know, for doing that. Is it somebody should have flouted really certain rules or societal norms, you know, for them to be arrested. But I want to agree with Sarah on one point that the Electoral Commission should really come out very strongly, should not stay under the tent, should really, you know, hold this urgent meeting with presidential candidates, with political parties, to review how the campaign is going so far. And issues of arrests, issues of violence, issues of dealing with SOPs and how they are being followed should be discussed, and the key actions should be taken. And to the extent that some candidates are flouting the rules, I want to agree that Electoral Commission can invoke its powers and suspend those presidential candidates, such that they allow, such that as a country, we can be safe. I think that's extremely, very important.
Okay, thank
Finally,
you. Finally?
Finally, I want to reinstate that President Museveni, as a candidate of NRM, has been on record that he's not going to hold campaigns of killing his supporters, that he wants to keep within the SOPs of COVID, social distance. You don't go to his meetings when you are not masked. And actually, some people even have to first, get tested. And I think that is leadership. So all presidential candidates should provide leadership to their supporters and show them that whereas it is nice and enjoyable to have the drama of rallies, because politics is emotive, whereas that's enjoyable, but because this is a special election in a special crisis called COVID, we cannot hold hands and sing kumbaya. That cannot happen at the moment. What should happen is that we should be socially distanced, receive a message through radios, through smaller meetings, such that because after January 2021, Uganda is going to remain, and we are going to remain Ugandans. And as supporters of different candidates, we shouldn't fight each other because this is the only country that we have.
Thank you so much, Sarah. What could be your last words as we're ramping up this?
Well, there seems to be an increasing loss of trust and confidence in the electoral process by both voters and stakeholders. A number of political candidate camps are on record have said that even their complaints being sent to Electoral Commission are not being addressed. The electoral laws provide for a timely and continuous mechanism for addressing and resolving electoral, complaints, even before the election is done. So I think it will be important for a voter to know. One, is the Electoral Commission incapacitated to the extent that they cannot discharge fully their mandate? I think that that should be put on record by Justice Byabakama. Okay. Secondly, when does he intend to address the issues affecting the campaign trail beyond mere mention of SOPs? Because what we have seen before is that he said, observe SOPs. Yes, the right to life is part of Chapter 4 on fundamental rights and freedoms of human beings and of Ugandans. But equally is so the other rights. So Justice Byabakama should stop seeming to be more concerned about mere SOPs. The issues affecting the election that he is presiding over are beyond SOPs, and he should rise to the occasion. Okay.
Well, as you're wrapping this up, there is a tweet we put on our digital platforms, that is on Twitter, and we say that Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde and Mugisha Muntu have since suspended their campaigns following the arrest of their fellow presidential aspirants. That was Patrick Poa and Robert Kyagulanyi. And what's your take on this? A couple of you have given us your feedback. I want to sample that quick. Robert Elvis says, that's a nice move for now. Let's leave Museveni campaign alone as he wanted. And Bonrich on Twitter says that, does that mean unity? Where did they unite and bring, why didn't they unite and bring one candidate? And then J. Kiza official says, we will save Uganda. God, please bring the Savior like you brought your son Jesus on earth to save. We pray for this nation. Let it be a home of peace and love. And then Michael Armand says, we need to join hands as Ugandans. This is the time to end slavery, dictatorship, and impunity in our country. And Muyomba Lubega says, I challenge Norbert Mao to do the same. Otherwise, it will confirm the long-held suspicion that he is a regime apologist. And then we have Bright John says that let Museveni know that we are fed up of his bad governance and he should leave the country in peace. And lastly, I'll get one from Okello Saul says, I'm begging them to unite and defeat one in power. I'm Andrew Chamagero. Muntu and see the conversation is very emotional on Twitter. I can see your feedback, and all I can say is let's await and see what becomes of Nalufenya today. The lawyers are not being allowed to have access to their client, and security agents are all over, not only Nalufenya and in the other security flashpoints around the country. So if you're one of those Ugandans who believe in peace and harmony, let's find lasting solutions. But again, I will say that these are trying times. We're dealing with unprecedented times, I asked the Electoral Commission to come and give us answers. We need answers as media. Yesterday were blocked from covering a couple of these events, and right now it's back into the public. We'll take a break and we'll be back.